All right, I want everybody to picture this. It's 1973 overhead establishing shot of Manhattan. You zoom in, you see the crime-infested city. It's the perfect song. It is the perfect song. It's Four Cornered Room by War off their 1972 album, The World is a Ghetto. It's also number 444 out of 500 on the Spotify original, The 500, with me, Josh Adam Myers, the King Cadogal, the King of Fleece. What's up, Fleece Army? Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and thank you once again for joining me on the journey through Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums. Did you hear me say 5? I was like, 5. When it gets the real growl, it's like, 500 greatest albums. That's how I feel like I should talk. I think everybody assumes that I should be, by the end of this, when we're at like year 9, I'm going to be like, all right, y'all ready to do some Instagram stories? Do some Instagram stories. No, listen to that garbage disposal voice guy, what he just said. Do the Instagram stories, everybody. Show me how you're listening to the 500. Take a screenshot of how you're listening, hopefully on Spotify, and I want you guys to tag me on Instagram stories at Josh Adam Myers. Throw our new Instagram handle at the 500 podcast, and then put a hashtag Fleece Army so we can get a 24-hour ad on your Instagram to show everybody how much you love this show. You guys want to find out a little bit about this record? Released in November of 1972 and produced by Jerry Goldstein with Lonnie Jordan, Howard E. Scott. This is the 5th album from soul, jazz, funk, rock, Latin fusion band War. War featured members Howard E. Scott on guitar, Leroy Jordan on keyboards, Morris Dickerson on bass, Harold Ray Brown on drums, Charles Lowrider Miller on the sax and the flute, Thomas Papa D. Allen on percussion, and sole white member, yet the one who had the best afro. Only white dude in the band had the best afro, Denmark's harmonica player, Lee Oscar. All of War also contributed vocals and additional percussion to the album. Forming from seeds of the Long Beach, California group The Creators that was started in '62, they added most of their members who lived in surrounding areas and put out a few singles before morphing into Night Shift in 1968. Now, as Night Shift, they backed up Los Angeles Ram defensive end Deacon Jones, who also had a live singing career. That's ridiculous. It was in 1969, while playing with Jones at the Ragdoll nightclub in North Hollywood, that producer Jerry Goldstein and future manager Steve Gold saw the band and thought the sound of the fusion of their influences and multi-ethnic look would be perfect to back up British singer Eric Burdon, who had just left the popular British invasion group The Animals. And Night Shift's message of using music to promote unity, brotherhood, and harmony to combat racism, crime, hunger, and gang life was timely. Burden and harmonica virtuoso Lee Oscar, who had already teamed up, jammed with the band at the Ragdoll, and they all decided to collaborate further. Lee Oscar's harmonica formed a unique variation on a horn section with Charles Miller's saxophone, and part of War's signature sound was born. Goldstein, Gold, and Burden changed the name of the group to War in April of '70. They put out their first record, Eric Burdon Declares War. It was a success and contained the hit Spill the Wine, which was written by the band. You guys know Spill the Wine? It's from the movie Boogie Nights. Spill the wine, get that girl, bobble, ski-ba-doo, ski-ba-boo. You know it. After their second album was released, the band toured to rave reviews. However, Burden quit in the middle of their European tour, so War finished without him. The band returned to Los Angeles to make their third album, but first without Burden. The 1971 album War flopped, but later, that same year, they put out All Day Music with the million-selling single Slippin' Into Darkness, which exploded. The stage was set for their follow-up album, which was to continue their musical explorations and reflections on most members' past lives in the ghetto. And War did not disappoint. The World is a Ghetto was the #1 selling album of 1972. It went triple platinum and topped the polls and the charts. The band had several more successful albums after this and continued to play in various lineups and configurations until the 80s. Tragically, saxophonist and flautist Charles Miller was stabbed to death in a botched street robbery in 1980. Fuck, dude. Just bummed me out. I liked him. Later, the band lost percussionist Thomas Papa D. Allen after he died on stage of a heart attack or brain hemorrhage in 1988. We don't even know. All due respect, I'm not trying to come off like a dickhead right now. You get caught off by surprise when in the middle of all this, like, and then they topped the charts, and then they fucking had a #1 single. Tragically, Thomas Papa D died on stage. He shit himself to death. And you're like, Jesus Christ. All due respect to Charles Miller and Thomas Allen. I am not trying to make fun of them. In 1996, the band had a contract dispute with their managers over who owned the name, and Lonnie Jordan put together an all-new version of War while the rest of the members started the Lowrider Band. Both bands still tour playing these amazing songs. And guys, oh man, do I have an amazing guest today. Someone that I have been a fan of for years. Everybody knows from the Washington, D.C. area, I have a true whiz kid here. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, and I'm honored to bring him on the show, is Caron Butler. Caron Butler is, in my opinion, an NBA legend. He's played in the NBA for 14 years. He played for the Heat, the Lakers. He won a championship with the Dallas Mavericks, but I could give a shit about the rest of those teams because he played for my Washington Wizards, a part of my favorite squad ever, which is Caron, Gilbert Arenas, and Antoine Jameson. I have stitches in my knee from celebrating a Wizards victory against the Milwaukee Bucks where Gilbert hit this last-second shot. So when I found out that I could get him, it just blew my mind. Also, guys, Caron released his autobiography, Tough Juice, My Journey from the Streets to the NBA, and is set to be a film produced by Mark Wahlberg. He's also got an incredible podcast called the Tough Juice Podcast, and in my opinion, Caron Butler is definitely in the running for most interesting man in NBA history. This means a lot to me, guys. So buckle up, kiddos. Rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the 500. Listen free on Spotify or anywhere you get your pods. Follow me at Josh Adam Myers on all social media. Email the podcast at 500podcast@gmail.com. And for all things 500, go to our website, the500podcast.com. Well, nothing left to say, but here we go with number 444 out of 500 with The World is a Ghetto by War. Caron Butler's now a friend of mine. Fuck yeah, dude. One more time. Caron Butler, now a friend of mine. Hit me. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, that was one of the first times somebody has joined in with accoutrements during that. I do that, I guess, for what, like 50 episodes so far? People just stare at me. So thank you.
Look, I feel the vibe already, man. So I gotta jump in.
I love it. Tell me about your experience with the band War. Like, how long back? How far back? Because I know I asked you to do this. I know you weren't like a huge fan, but what did you know about the band War?
Honestly, I didn't know much, and I heard the name from some time before, and then my guy Jeremiah reached out to me. He was like, "Listen, you got to hear this album, take it in, absorb it." And I was just taken back, because a band, in the 60s and 70s, original name, the creators. And then now to be, named War and just what they impacted and what they was all about, talking about soul, rhythm, jazz, combination of all things, like it was special.
Yeah, this is almost like they're a collective of just different musicians, different ethnicities. I knew about what was the song? All my friends in the low ride. Like that's what I knew. So what did you grow up listening to?
Oh man, growing up, I listened to a lot of Otis Redding. I listened to a lot of Sam Cooke.
Oh wow.
Growing up, listening to the Temptations. man, Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, everything, you know, in our household, you know, that's when, you know, it had, you know, the vinyl and the record player. So my grandmother always used to have dance-offs in the living room, and it was a small living room, but the kids used to come in and be like, dance to this, baby. And, you know, it was just one of those things. But, you know.
Were you a big kid, too?
Yeah.
Were you like, so you're just knocking shit over?
No,
like,
I was
he's trying to do the mashed
first.
potato, Grandma. That's how the vase broke. He's doing Caron did the mashed potato.
Yeah, the mashed potato didn't come out until the 90s, man. So, shit, we was doing some other stuff at that time. But it was special, man. And those, like, are my fondest memories.
Really?
Yeah, it really is.
So she put all this music in front of you. Did you ever kind of go off and start listening to other stuff? Like, what age did you start finding your own musical taste?
Yeah, you know what? I think Scarface and the Ghetto Boys. I think that introduced me to just what I was going through. You know, because she was telling me her history through music and what she was going through at the time. So, like in the 60s and 70s, talking about being raised in Columbus, Mississippi, growing up and working in the cotton fields and stuff like that. She identified with the messaging that was being told from these artists.
Yeah.
So now I identify immediately with Scarface and the Ghetto Boys. The World Is Yours, talking about what I seen every time I jumped off the porch, you know, crack sales, you know, prostitution, the hustling, everything. Like, that's what I seen, and he was identifying with that and painting that picture.
Yeah. What about now? What do you listen to now?
Oh, man, I got a wide range. You talking about war? You talking about I listen to old Blue Eyes sometimes. Sometimes I go strictly classical. Sometimes I go current hip hop, you know, Post Malone or J. Cole, Jay-Z, Nas. I'm all over the place, man. You know, I love just hearing good music and good content.
What were you listening to while you were at UConn? Like, what was
Tupac everything.
Tupac everything?
Yeah, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just straight up. Like, I wanted to give it to people 100 proof, no cut. You know what I mean? So when I came on the court, like, that was my disposition. Like, nobody can fracture this wall that I built up around myself. Like, I just.
So as you were like crossing somebody up in your head, you just hear, "Come with me, dabba-dee-ba-dabba-doo-ba-dee."
There
Like,
is
this
smiling.
motherfucker.
All that.
I love that.
I was feeling it.
Yeah. All right. So what did you think about this record? I told you to listen to it because I just wanted to sit down and talk to you because like I'm such a huge fan. I said it as soon as you walked in. I was like, "Oh my god, dude!" I was like, because I was there. I was there when you played Milwaukee. And Gilbert Arenas hit that game-winning three. Still to me, and I said this earlier, but I'm going to say this to all the Fleece Army out there, the most exciting year of my life was I think 2006 into 2007, where the Washington Wizards were arguably – that was the greatest collection, in my opinion, of basketball players because that was the first big three.
Yeah.
You, Antoine, and Gilbert. So I was there when Gilbert hit it was just like a string of game-winning shots. You guys went to the playoffs.
That's when Hibachi was born.
That was when Hibachi was born. And that was when that ended. That was like one of the saddest periods of my life when you got shipped off, when Antoine left. Actually, Antoine stuck around. Gilbert stuck around for a second, and then they had to, something went down, and then they had to get rid of the whole team and dismantle it and start over. But it's just an honor to be sitting here talking to you today,
brother.
because I
Thank
fucking
you.
love you, man. All right, so I asked you to listen to this record. What'd you think about it?
I really liked it. I was in for a surprise because I'm a huge fan of, you know, beats and bass drum and melodies, and, you know, like sometimes you think about the Shaft introduction and some of the stuff that you used to hear from Stack Records. It takes you to a place sometimes, you know, just the instrumentals, like the long breaths in the music, where you have like a minute of this like bass drum and you just get to feel that vibe. And I was vibing the entire time, you know, smoking my Monte Cristo, just feeling it.
So you're enjoying, you know, the album. It's setting a vibe. Like what does it bring up when you listen to it? Like what do you feel from hearing this record?
Man, I don't know. You feel happiness. You feel pain. You feel. I don't know. It takes you on a ride of emotions.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some fun stuff in it. Like you have Cisco Kid, which is just popping.
That's my favorite song. Right
That's your favorite song off the album. I mean, the one that really, well, we'll get into the record in a second, but the ones that, I mean, Four Cornered Room is just slow and just sludgy, and It is just, it's like literally made for you to smoke pot and just like lay back and just chill to. And then you have the album is called The World is a Ghetto, which is kind of a statement on the band's part, you know, to say that, because I mean, in a sense, you know, the world is some form of a ghetto. I mean, it's all over. It's where the band started, you know, and it just brings up a lot of feelings for me. And I mean, to have a lot of their songs be these like, you know, 8 to 12-minute jams. I mean, they're taking you through a journey throughout this whole thing.
I say it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe. Every song, like, you have to connect with, and it's long enough for you to feel it. And, you know, once you have those tones and the bass is dropping or the drums is playing or whatever the case, it's like it's forcing you to have that connection with that song at the time.
Before we get into this week's episode, let's talk a little bit about Sonos for the holidays. If you're wondering what to get your friends and family for the holidays, or you just want to have that holiday party blowing up kashblukid, the brilliant sound of Sonos is the answer for you. Play all your favorite holiday jams with a new home theater system. I put Sonos into my life about a little under a year ago, and it's made everything better. I have speakers in every room. I've got the subwoofer, so there's that woof. I've got the Sonos Move, which is incredible because you can move the speaker wherever you want, and it sounds better than every other portable speaker on the market. It's insane. The clarity, the bass, I love it. Plus, they've got speech enhancement mode. It's a new, unique feature that clarifies the sound of the human voice. Perfect for when characters whisper on television or if the action intensifies. Turn it on in the Sonos app and never miss a moment of the story. Or play all your favorite holiday jams when the TV is off. And guess what? Sonos works with Spotify and all the other streaming services. And you can also wirelessly connect all your speakers to create your perfect sound system. It's the perfect gift, the gift of crystal clear sound. Go to Sonos.com to complete your holiday shopping. And now, back to the Gashpluki. All right, let's dive into the record. Our album is number 444 out of 500. It's the 5th studio album, The World is a Ghetto, by the band War. It was released in November 1972, produced by Jerry Goldstein, Lonnie Jordan, and Howard E. Scott. This is like for both of us, this was our first foray into the band War. And I got to say, a fantastic introduction. I really feel like I was experiencing something completely different. All right, so the album opens with the Cisco Kid. All right, Peter, play the opening verse.
Cisco Kid was a friend of mine. The Cisco Kid was a friend of mine.
It's catchy. It just, you can't not like it makes me want to get into like a lowrider car and just drive down Crenshaw right now and just go to fucking Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and get an Obama special. Now, this was the second single from the album, and it also became the band's highest charting song, reaching number 2 in May of '73. Guitarist Howard Scott, who came up with the idea for this one, wanted to sing about an ethnic hero that people of color could admire and relate to. While most TV and movie cowboys were white, the Cisco Kid was a popular TV show and series and movies in the 50s that featured the Cisco Kid and his partner Pancho, who were 2 lead Mexican characters. Along with the song's catchy harmonica and saxophone riff, drummer Harold Ray Brown based his drum technique on Sam and Dave's song I Thank You by playing along the rim of the snare drum. I guess I can kind of hear that. I mean, it's so funky. I love it. Now, the Cisco Kid was introduced as a criminal in the original 1907 story written by O. Henry, but he went on to be portrayed as more of a folk hero. Now, I want to turn this back to you. Growing up in Racine, Wisconsin, you had 15 arrests before you were 15 years old. So you were clearly fucking up and on the wrong path.
Say that again.
What was your turning point?
I think my ultimate turning point for me was, I hate to say it, but corrections. And, you know, getting incarcerated at a time where so much was happening. And I think it forced me to identify my trauma. what I've been through, what's broken me to this point to make me behave the way that I was behaving, and how I needed to change a lot of my ways. You know what I mean? So that's where I was at with it. And when I got incarcerated, like, I pivoted out that space and just tried to be a better version of myself going forward. So it's some shit I had to address for real.
What was that? What was that first arrest? Not the first. Well, what was the first arrest, and then what was the last one? Let's see. I want to see the difference.
Disorderly conduct.
What were you doing?
Yeah, just
What were you doing?
always running from the police, always getting into
Well,
shit at the
but
community
they,
center.
obviously you had to do something wrong if you were running. Were you just running like, shit, the cops?
No,
Just-
because, it was always like neighborhood dudes always sitting out at the corners like statues, right?
Yeah.
So you get loitering tickets and stuff like that. And they always assumed that I was older than what I was. I was 11 years old. I was already probably scratching the surface of 5'11", closer to 6 foot.
yeah.
So they just treated me like an adult immediately. Like, that's what they identified me as. And I used to always run. Like, I wasn't going to sit around and tell my story and, bank on the police having favor. You know what I mean? Like, I just took off. Like, I'm not. So fleeing and eluding was my thing.
Plus, you're about 6 feet, 11 years old. You're fucking. You
Yeah.
you can't hide.
Yeah, I ain't got a shot.
Like,
I ain't got a shot.
all right, nobody's over here. Wait, is that a big ass black dude behind that street sign? Yeah, I see that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Cuff him up. What was the last one? What was the last one that got you incarcerated?
The last one that got me incarcerated was I got caught with a .32 revolver on school grounds at Racine Unified, and a little bit over 1.5 ounces of hard rock cocaine.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was jacked up to sell poison like that and to see the effect that it has on people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I even was selling drugs to, like, cousins and shit like that. Like, so I was like ruthless with it. So now that I've seen the impact and the effect, like, that's why I think I even go above and beyond sometime to kind of change that narrative and try to help out and try to be an influence. Positive.
Do you feel guilty about it still?
I
or
did,
do you,
yeah. I felt very guilty because I know I've sold so much that, I felt like I owed a lot,
Yeah.
on them streets. Like, I was out there, so, like, those streets that I sold a lot of drugs on, like, I try to go back and enhance as much as possible.
Yeah. But like Cisco, you've gone on to earn a lot of respect and a lot of acclaim. What was the first stable job you had after, being incarcerated?
After being incarcerated, I think working at Burger King. I think that was the first.
Fuck yeah, a little BK
Yeah,
Lounge,
man.
dude.
Have it your way.
What were you doing? What were you on the counter? You can't put a big motherfucker on the counter. Ain't nobody gonna order. They're like, I ain't going in there.
They set my
You
big
want to head
black
over to
ass up
Hardee's
there.
because that motherfucker working the register is scary as fuck. It's like, honey, there's a hair in my Whopper. Should I say something? I'm not going up there. You gonna tell him that's fucked up? I ain't doing it.
It was crazy. I had a bracelet on at the time too, so I was on house arrest,
Fuck yeah,
but I only got out to work.
yeah.
So I was at the cash register at some points, and it was a really jacked up feeling because people walk in and, sometimes you have to leave from behind the counter and they see the bracelet on your leg. It was just like some weird shit.
Oh, I bet. All right. After this song's popularity, the band got to meet and hang out with Duncan Reynaldo, who played the Cisco Kid at his home in Camarillo, California. His wife, however, made sure to let the band know that contrary to their song, Reynaldo did not drink whiskey or wine. Now, while coming up as a Laker, you met and hung out with the man himself, Mark Wahlberg. And now he's executive producing on your biopic, the 2015 autobiography, Tough Juice. How did that relationship get to where it is now?
It's crazy because he was courtside at a basketball game,
Of course.
and people always
Was the Funky Bunch there as well?
no, just him
Just
and
him,
one
okay.
of his guys, and I think Lev or some of the producers that he usually roll with, and I just identified him. I was always a fan of his music and obviously him as an actor. So I just went up to him and just like, hey man, come to the locker room in the back. I want to show you something afterwards, and he actually showed up. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah,
meant a
dude.
lot.
If a fucking all-star invites you to a game, you not just to a game, to the locker room, you go. I love how you're shocked about that. It's like that's like if I was sitting courtside and the worst scrub on the Washington Wizards was like, yo, we going to a diner after the game. You want to come? I'd be like, I'm there. I'll leave right now and get us a table.
I'm there.
I am there, bro. But so, all right, so he came back, and then how did you guys get to talking to where you guys are working together?
Yeah, that was the connection right there. Me just identifying him in real time while I'm at work playing, and him coming back. and he invited me to the set of Two Guns. Him and Denzel Washington was
Nice.
filming. He was like, "Hey, come to the set 2 days from now." And I was like, "Oh shit, I actually got a day off." And I went out all the way in like Santa Anita or some stuff. I was in Westchester.
Yeah.
And we just connected from there, and we just started building. And I showed him what I was working on, and he loved it. He was like, "Let me read it first before you let anybody else see it."
Dope.
And he just like, "Yo, let's do a partnership. Let's sign on. I love it, and I want to see this thing come to life." So it was just a great connection. It was a great partnership from the jump, and we've been cool for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, he's
now.
the man, dude. He's
Yeah.
the man. Like, he just seems like a cool dude. But going off of that, because now you're an executive producer of like a film. Did you always plan to see a life beyond basketball, or was it always just about balling and then the rest came from it?
It was never about just basketball. It was always about, my family, about, legacy, about creating, first generational riches and eventually generational wealth. Like
Yeah.
I looked at, some of the things that my grandparents taught me, specifically my grandmother. When she came up from the cotton fields in Mississippi, she always said, "Ownership is everything, baby. Own your house, own some land, and try to, empower this family and try to put them in position where they able to be a better version of themselves." So that's how I always thought.
Dude, I need to get like some financial advice from Grandma. Is she around?
Yeah.
She's still here?
Yes.
All right, set up a meal at Burger King, and we'll me and her. She'll look at my portfolio, and we'll go from there. All right, let's go into the next track. Where was you at? Peter, play the chorus.
I looked around for someone help me. Where was you at? Where was you at?
Dude, this song is funky as fuck. That's all I wrote. This song is funky as fuck. There's some moments in it that I really, really enjoy. They flip the groove around, or they go to this like strange key change that completely threw me off as a listener. But it makes you feel like you're finding yourself at an intersection between New Orleans, where like 4 other different bands are all crossing amongst one another. Thoughts on the song?
Yeah, you know what? I want to hear your thoughts on the where were you at?
Where were you at? Where was you at?
Yeah, like what was you feeling in that moment?
Well, when I was listening to it, first of all, this album reminded me a lot of, we did Maggot Brain by Funkadelic. Have you ever listened to that?
Okay.
Have you ever listened to that
haven't,
album?
I haven't.
All right, I'm going to send it to you.
Please
You
do.
have to listen to this record. It's one of the funkiest, rockiest. It's just so perfect. So this song reminds me of a song from that record called Can You Get to That? I think that's what it's called. Either way, they just have that same feel. Do you know what I mean? Now where was you at? Like, it could mean a million different things. I think, if I'm going to take it to where I'm at now, I think it's about, where was your head at? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a person that really, like, used to live inside his ego, and I used to I couldn't, like, sitting here talking to you, I wouldn't be able to be here with you. I was like thinking about, like, does he like me? Am I being this? Am I being that? I have to do this. I got to pay the IRS. Whatever the fuck it was. That's kind of what I think they're saying from this song. Like, where were you at in your head? Now, I might be wrong. What do you think?
I think evolving as a person, and I identify what you're saying, and also I think of songs like The Big Payback and stuff like that when I hear those tunes, and I'm like, I take it a lot of different ways. Like, when I hear phrases, I'm like, okay, maybe where were you at when, like Drake said, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I took it, like, immediately, like, where were you at? And then all of a sudden I was, thinking about it in a more positive way where, I brought it back to myself. Like, how was I thinking? Was I thinking prematurely? Was not, educated enough to be in the moment of this situation, as you stated? So I took it in so many different ways, but it was definitely just an eye opener to hear that phrase right there to make me think differently.
Sure. All right. Are you a gambling man?
I will gamble.
You'll gamble? All right. How many times do you think they say, where was you at in the song?
Let's see. I'll go.
He's like, I would have said the first time. Then there was a second.
It's over 70.
Over 70? No.
No?
28.
28.
28. You owe me $5,000. We didn't decide on it. All right. Lyrically, this is pretty much a yearning plea searching for that special someone that will save the singer. Speaking of saving, recently we had found out that your daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and in the typical Caron Butler fashion, you've set your sights on researching for a cure. Where are you at with that journey to find the cure? I want you to tell the Fleece Army and all the Spotify listeners how we can help.
I mean, just supporting and, bringing awareness. I found out that my daughter was, type 1 diabetic March 7th this past year. And it turned our world upside down because, she lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
She was super lethargic. We go to a routine doctor appointment with the pediatrician, at 10 o'clock a.m. thinking we're going to be out by no later than 20 minutes later, so 10:20. And then we're rushed off in the ambulance to ICU, and we spend the next, 2 weeks in ICU trying to figure out, how we're going to deal with this situation going forward. It's a fraternity that you don't want to be a part of, but it's something that you have to embrace and, just try to help. And I really do hate the fact sometimes when people are not informed enough to make assessment on diabetes. People always say that it's the way you eat or whatever the case may be. In my daughter's case, she had a immune system problem, and her pancreas was underperforming since her birth, and it was something that triggered it, that forced something from her DK units and things like that to, bleed into her blood system, and it kind of just offset her. So she was literally dying in front of us. So if we wouldn't have addressed that issue and would have just kind of stayed the course for probably another year or so,
she'd be gone.
She'd be in a tough situation, fighting for her life.
Yeah. So how can we help? What can we do? What can the listeners do to help you get to your ultimate goal, which is finding a cure for this?
Yeah, we're raising money for it. JDRL Foundation, we donate money for, experiments to find different ways to, help enhance the treatment for diabetes. And she now has a Dexcom on her arm that, I can look at on my Apple phone at any time, at any given time.
That is insane.
When she go low, her levels go low.
Oh, wow,
we're able to read everything, and that's important because, they're putting a lot of research in it. And I think that, within, and I always talk to these doctors, and different doctors say the same thing, but within the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a cure because they're getting down to the grit and to the meat and potatoes of what the problem is and what can possibly trigger these things and how they can reverse it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so just give the foundation wherever we can donate to. Say it again.
Yeah, the JDRF Foundation.
Dude, everybody, Fleece Army, Cadougals, get out there, throw money that way, all right?
Thank you.
All right, next song, City, Country, City. So first there is this brief Family Ties theme song sounding intro. Then it kicks in to what I think sounds like every chase scene from any blaxploitation movie in the 70s. Peter, play a little bit of that. Great song. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, immediately when I heard that, I was thinking about Truck Tucker.
Truck Tucker, remind me.
Isaac Hayes was in the movie. He was like the main featured guy, and the introductions used to be like you said, the chase scenes.
Yeah.
And they'll go on for like 4 minutes where that music just be taking you, be like, man, is he gonna catch you through? Come on, soul brother, keep going.
He jumps from one building to the next, and
then all of a sudden the brother from the hood knew karate. All of a sudden, that was the thing. Like everybody wanted to know karate, like Dolomite.
Yeah, dude,
it's crazy.
You're gonna see him like, nah, man, come on, Cool Breeze, leave me alone. All right, I'll tell you, it was Rick Ross. Rick Ross been doing it. He been doing us dirty. All right, you go ahead. And then he's starts having sex, and that's the beginning of the song. Oh, I love it. So there's so many amazing parts in this song, from the lyrical, harmonica-driven cha-cha near the beginning to the wicked organ and the Latin percussion jams. Love this song. Now, you've played for a bunch of different teams in a bunch of different cities, which must have been very instrumental in your growth. What city has taught you the most?
You know what? I've took a little. It's almost like gumbo. Like I took a little bit of the ingredients from every city and learned a lot. Like the versatility of culture, the real diverse culture in D.C. taught me a lot. It was an eye opener because people don't realize, like, I grew up in Wisconsin, right? But my area in Wisconsin, if that's where the 6% African American community was, black and brown.
Yeah.
I mean, they was all right there in Racine. So that's all I seen was, my people, my culture. And then I went from that and went to prep school at MCI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to being the 3% of the African American community that was right there on that campus because, Maine was predominantly white, Caucasian. And
You can call us white.
yeah.
You
So
don't have to
then,
say Caucasian.
yes.
You don't have to PC it up. We're white.
yeah.
We're white motherfuckers.
So like, it got more diverse the more I moved on from Connecticut, then to Miami. You seeing Latinos, everything, and then you go to L.A. where you just see fucking everything, and then D.C. Then I saw more of our culture. Then I went to Dallas, and then it just, so it was a combination of all things. Like I think it built me for all the things that I do now, for television, for radio, for podcasts, everything, because I'm able to talk from a real perspective from I can see the whole landscape of everything, and I can kind of embody and embrace it to the best of my ability and talk about it from an educated point of view.
What city challenged you the most?
I think D.C.
Why is that?
Because expectations was different. It really was. Like I think L.A. and D.C. because L.A. from a basketball standpoint is because I played with possibly the greatest player ever to play the game of basketball,
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, so like when he's that good and everybody else, like you have to raise your level. You know what I mean? So from a basketball standpoint, it challenged me. In D.C., it challenged me from a basketball standpoint, but more so from a culture standpoint because you was a guy that the kids identified with in this community. So you was held to a different standard. And I felt like my purpose was probably bigger than ever there in Washington. Most powerful city in the world. And I understood that. We was on a huge stage, and I recognized that, and I try to maximize that platform to try to inspire kids.
Yeah. Dude, it just made me think, like we got you for Kwame Brown. No disrespect, Kwame, but you fucking, that's the thing is that if you're saying we put a lot of expectations on you, we got you for nothing. If you would have scored 3 points every 5 games, we would have been like, yeah, that's perfect. It's still better than Kwame. I'm sorry, Kwame, if you're listening, which you're probably not. All right.
It's sad, though, because I told my lawyer and my agent, Raymond Brothers, at the time, he said, yo, you can trade it. It's going to be a signing trade. They're going to, max you out at your number. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm happy. I was like, who am I going to trade it for? They was like, Kwame Brown. I was like, damn, who else? Like, who else going? No, for real. I kept, no knock to Kwame, but I kept asking that. I was like,
is there draft picks?
They was like, no, like, bitch, Kupchak traded you for Cup. I was like, that was dumb as hell. Like, I was just like, whoa, like, how could he do that? Like, I was like, yo, Washington winning.
Oh, 100% we won.
Because I just didn't see it. I knew Kwame was a good dude, but I just don't see it.
All right. Four Cornered Room. This is one of my favorite songs on the record. And like I said before, if you haven't listened to this song yet, smoke a bowl or a joint or whatever, take some mushrooms, and put this shit on. Peter, play a little bit of it for me. I love everything about this song. I love this funky, just crawling groove, the wild percussion, all the weird sound effects, and then when you get those backing chants of the zoom, zoom, zoom with a little bit of flang on the spoken word shit. I mean, it is a perfect song, in my opinion, because this is one that I really connected with. Any thoughts?
Grown folks music.
Oh, you don't think this is kids will get into this?
Yeah, I just think it's grown folks music. You got to be an in-depth thinker to listen to this right here.
Yeah,
it's talking about being in that space, man, where you vibing. I don't know what you're into, whether you're into your wine or your Sassicaia, your Riesling.
Sassicaia. That's the first time anybody said that word on this podcast.
Whatever you're drinking, man, you got to go into that place, man, and this vibe, man. There's layers to zoning out and being in the vibe, but this will take you to that place.
Do you feel like this could be something that makes its way into your rotation?
Oh, yeah. It already has. It's on my collection. I put that on my playlist.
Perfect. All right. So this is about understanding and misunderstanding. That's what this song is about, okay? Now, you've had to deal with misunderstandings and conflict in your life. Some you've taken responsibility for, but there have also been a few that happened indirectly around you. One was an infamous card game that got out of hand and really broke up probably my favorite thing ever. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was tough, man. You know,
Fill everybody in. So about what had happened, because I mean, I'm still not even clear on it.
Man, we coming back from a West Coast trip, and you know,
This is the Washington Wizards.
the Washington Wizards coming back from a West Coast trip, and you know, it was a card game going on with I forget the players at the time. JaVale McGee, I know Gilbert Arenas,
And Jarvis.
Javaris Creatine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to forget who the fourth player was at the time, but
What are they playing?
I think Bourré or Tunk. one of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, I know
And
Tunk.
I think the pot was at like a G or something. You know, it wasn't nothing heavy.
Yeah.
Nothing for what happened going forward cost them. But all you just remember was the commotion, and you know, Javaris wanting his money, and you know, I never forget, like, you know, the whole discussion of, you know, I don't fight, I play with guns, and that whole scenario. And you know, fast forward, it led to, you know, guys having guns in the locker room the next morning, and you know, from Javaris and Gilbert Arenas. And you know, it was just a tough situation because, one, you know, it was two really good dudes. You know, nobody, I mean, once you're in the NBA, you know, we're making millions of dollars. Nobody's about no street shit at this point. You know, everybody's trying to provide for their family. And, you know, it was a day in the history of sports, like, and definitely in our lives and everybody that was a part of that team, that just kind of altered everything forever.
Yeah. So how did that feel though then to have such a good thing like broken up? Because that was it. That was the beginning of the end of that Washington Wizards team.
It was tough for many reasons, because I knew Javaris was a good person, and I played with Gilbert longer. Me, Gilbert, Antoine, Brendan Haywood was the longest tenured Wizards at the time, and had the strongest connections. So I knew that Gilbert was a good dude too. Like, he was scoring for schools, he was doing all this stuff in the community. Like, I think that, you know, when you talk about his philanthropic work and what he's done to help people be better, it doesn't get talked about enough. So I felt bad for him. You know, I felt bad for everyone involved, and it was really just a fucked up day. It was a fucked up day that, you know, that changed the landscape of a lot of people's lives. You look at Javaris right now.
He's in jail, right?
He's in jail for murder.
Murder, yeah.
Yeah, you look at Gilbert's situation, and he was able to rebound but it took so long.
Yeah.
It took so long for Gilbert to, you know, finally get that. I feel like that black sheep cast.
Well, I mean, the guy a couple games later, he hits like a three and then starts, you know, flashing the gun signs, which you're just like, dude, it's like, I mean, it was for me. It was, I know.
Jokester.
He was so funny, and he
Yeah.
was the way that, like, with all the nicknames, the Agent Zero, the Hibachi. I mean, in my opinion, he's my favorite sports figure since I've been alive. You know, so I could imagine, like, what was that like that morning when like, who pulled it out first? Like, do you remember any of that?
That, you know what, I do. I remember everything keenly. But I told Gilbert when I had the discussion with him, you know, years later after my book and stuff came out, he was hurt that every time he continues to do something successful in life or he builds some momentum,
They bring that up.
they bring the gun thing up. So as a brother of his, you know, not that I'm not okay with talking about it or telling the truth.
Yeah.
I just think that it's his story to tell.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I let him tell it.
We're trying to get him on too. I want Gilbert on so bad. All right, let's take that into the title track on the record, which is, honest to God, my favorite song on this record, "The World Is a Ghetto." So the 4-minute edit of this 10-minute masterpiece was the first single from the album, and to me, I think this song is the reason that the album is on the 500. Play a little bit of it, Peter.
Paradise is love, to be sure.
I mean, this song is perfect. It's just a perfect song. I love the wah-wah pedal, Howard Scott's guitar intro, which was great. It's just a thing of beauty. Now, according to drummer Harold Brown, the idea came from percussionist Papa D. Brown, that's a good name, after the band had spent some time in the more exclusive and wealthy areas of L.A. like Malibu and Hollywood. They realized that their toilets still backed up and their fancy cars still broke down too. And to them, those experiences were their ghettos. Basically, what he's saying is the ghetto perspective also meant that anyone could still achieve happiness regardless of material possessions as long as one was a positive force. And as Brown said, through that song, what we're really trying to say, you can be successful as long as you do unto each other as you're supposed to do. Be a good neighbor, get out and do the best you can. So even though the cycle of poverty that many minorities in the ghettos found themselves unable to escape was real, there was still a layer of hope that love and home could still bring happiness wherever one lived. That's beautiful.
It's
Now,
heavy.
you found your way out of heavy circumstances and you've given back in a big way. What advice would you give to a young person who is currently in the same position you were in at their age?
Identify your traumas, man. Like, really address the generational curses of what you're going through. And I think that this song says it all. You know, it's not about symbolic trophies. It's not about anything like that. It's about really just being the best possible version of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're an audience of one. You play to that. You kind of march to that beat. And I think that's what got me through my hardest times. I thought about the disappointing things that I've done, and this me talking to my younger self. I thought about the disappointing things I've done within my family, what I put my family through, the people that love me most, and saw the good in me when I couldn't see the good in myself. My mother, my grandmother, the strong women of my family, my aunts. And I always, you know, kind of move forward as if they're watching very closely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's how I police myself. You know, even when I get kind of jaded, you know, when you're making, you know, these astronomical figures doing something you love and, you know, your work don't even seem like work anymore. But that's how I humble myself. I'm like, I still got to move like with,
Sure.
with that presence.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I would tell anybody that's trying to move forward, like, stay true to your mission, not to the goals, because the goals should be checkpoints, and like you'll meet a lot of your goals. You check that shit off, keep moving, but stay true to that mission.
Yeah.
And, you know, move forward.
Let's talk about, you were talking about, you know, material stuff. So this kind of goes back and forth between the album and what I want to ask you. But the cover of the album it features a Rolls Royce type car in the ghetto. Now, many successful people rush out and fill their garages with luxury cars, and you do have a seriously comfortable one, but only one, right?
Yeah.
How do you maintain that kind of self-discipline when they're throwing that much money at you?
Because I think about my children. You know, I think about some of the things that I want them to have and things that I want them to have access to.
Yeah.
And, you know, shit, I Uber half of the places I go anyway.
What?
So even, I mean,
You better get an Uber XL.
Yeah, I Uber
Big
everywhere.
motherfucker. You
Yeah,
can't
I
get
do.
it. You can't get into it
Oh,
like a Ford
Uber Lux.
Fiesta.
Uber Lux.
Yeah, dude, you
Yeah.
gotta do Lux.
But like, I don't even drive. So what's the point of having all these trophies and, you know, and shit? You having, you know, $1 million worth of cars just to show people you can buy it. I mean, they know you can buy it. They see how hard you work. And,
Yeah.
But I think the true
I mean,
thing
shit,
is,
dude. ESPN puts your goddamn contract up on the fucking.
Everything.
They put everything. Their buyout, whatever it is.
I think people are more impressed with like self-discipline, though. I think people, if you're able to discipline yourself when no one's looking, just like when you're able to put in that sweat equity and that hard work when
Yeah.
no one's looking, like that's what people like respect to the fullest, and that's what I try to, you know, kind of hold myself accountable to.
So, do you think possessions have meaning then?
I mean, it depends. Like sometimes possession has, you know, I'm able to buy this. Like me psychologically knowing that I'm able to buy something, it kind of like let me know that I'm accomplishing or I'm on the road to where I needed to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like almost where people recognize you for your work and for your craft. Like people like, oh shit, I saw your piece, what you did with Master P. That's pretty dope. I'm like, that's something that I've created in my head, an interview of questions that we sit down with our production team and we come up with, and then now it lives in the universe forever.
Yeah.
And people appreciate your work. So to your point, like possessions is, kind of similar to that, where it's like, it's just something that you want it at some point, you appreciate, but it's not something that you like saying like I'm better than someone else just because I have this.
Yes, I have this belief, and I read this in a book about Vedanta, which is this old religion, and it's very Buddhist, where it's saying like it says wanting is like the cause of all of our pain. It's like, well, I see this guy's got that, I want that, and there's nothing wrong with getting those things, but just know that they're never going to make you a better person. And if you're doing something, you are going to buy it, because like I want a Porsche. So for my next car, I'm going to get a Porsche Macan. I can afford it because I've always wanted one, but I'm not doing it to impress people. I'm doing it because that's a goal that I set as a little kid. I said, I'm going to get a Porsche. Now I want a 911, but I can't get one now. Yeah, so I'm going to get the Macan. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I love, Cole so much too. J. Cole, he touched about some things where it's always going to be somebody with more, like more money, bigger house, more cars. So like you can't play the competition of that game. It's always a bigger fish in that water. But, if you just play the thing of this being a better version of you and competing against you, like I think that's what it is.
All right, let's move on to the final song on the record, Beatles in the Bog. I love this song. It's got these like soaring gang vocals and this tribal marching band rhythm that makes this song perfect. Pay to play a little bit. I think this song is about getting back to nature, which is kind of refreshing after a record that's decidedly rooted in the urban experience. I could see you were bopping along to this one. You like this one?
Yeah, a little bit.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Not one of my favorites, though, but I still vibe with it.
Let's take it about getting back to nature. What is it like being part of a team and working together?
It's challenging because you have different personalities. Do you know how hard it is to and this is why some of these coaches, you talked about Eddie Jordan being there with the
Loved Eddie.
Yeah, but
my dog.
Yeah, Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, the reason, and Rick Carlisle, all the guys, like the reason why they're so great because they're able to bring in that camaraderie and still be able to manage the personalities of super big egos.
Super egos, dude. I mean, that's why I think Phil Jackson's probably the greatest coach of all time, because he's had the egos of all egos.
Yeah.
Because he's had arguably the two greatest basketball players ever. And that's really, in a sense, what it is. So when is it serious, and then when is it fun? Like, when is it serious to be part of a team?
I just want the average Joe to sit around who's listening to this right now. You know how you ball up a sheet of paper and you throw it in the trash can, and you got 4 people watching. They be like, "Oh shit, that was a good shot."
Yeah.
You know that feeling you got? Take that shit and just put it on a trillion. That's the ego of some of your biggest sports athletes.
Oh, I was at the Clippers Raptors game the other night, and somebody was shooting a free throw. I was a little stoned, but I leaned over to my friend and I was like, "Could you do that?" And he was just like, "Yeah, I probably could do it." I go, "No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. That many people screaming at you." Like, of course, and that's after you hit a few of those shots, you do start, and then you become consistent at it. I can imagine how big these egos are.
It's different, bro. It's like the easiest routine play is the hardest thing. I just did a thing with Bleacher Report where I went out to the Rams practice, and I tried to catch some punt returns.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Yeah. shit was crazy, right? So I'm out there, I got my kids. I shouldn't have brought my kids with me. Because I want to be a superhero with my kids and shit. Man, I was everything but that. You know what I mean? The ball hit me all in the chest. Go to the ball. I'm like, this shit hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is?
Your daughter's like, reach out, grab the fucking ball, Dad.
It's right there. I'm like, shit, I'm losing it. Like, I'm looking up and I'm losing the ball in the sunlight, everything. So what seems so simple, it really isn't in sports. And you learn that relatively quick. And just like going up and stepping up and just shooting something as simple as a free throw. It's free, right? But it's not that free. Like, it takes a ton of concentration in the moment. And a lot of people don't like to be, even though you play in front of millions, a lot of people don't like to be on that island at that time, and that's why they nerves. They get the best of them, and they shoot the ball a little bit too hard in those moments.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So,
Can I ask you a question? Because you brought this
crazy.
up, and I was going to ask you this off. But, all right, so take me back to, I think it was the elimination game between the Cavaliers and the Wizards. Gilbert Arenas is standing at the free throw line, and he misses one shot, and then LeBron comes up and whispers something. Do you know what LeBron said to Gilbert?
yeah, he said, "You missed this, you know it's over, right?"
Oh,
and Gilbert, one of the biggest clutch players in the history of the game, he looked over at him like who the fuck is this dude talking to me? Like LeBron wasn't quite LeBron yet,
not yet, yeah.
but he was just like who this young boy talking to me like dude, I'm hibachi, like I'm about to make both
Major
of these
zero.
shits. Yeah, and then all boom, and I looked, I was like, wait a minute, like shit, he missed that. And then it just didn't, like, you know how like you're in a moment, I can't describe it, but I've been in so many moments in sports, like we won championships, we lost playoffs, where something just ain't right, like everybody else is just cheering and then all of the momentum of whatever happening, but I'm like in a moment and I'm like, this shit don't feel right. Like, for some reason, what usually or should happen right now is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I felt like those free throws was not going in when he did that.
You knew it.
And I wanted to, and I'll never forget, I was right there to the right of Gilbert. I wanted to be like, hey, fuck what he said.
Yeah.
Make the shot. But
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, he good.
He's
and
Gilbert,
then,
yeah.
And then I looked, I was like, holy shit, like, it's happening. And everybody just stuck.
Fuck. No, I get it. You want to do some facts and get out of here?
Let's do it.
All right. The facts are the facts. Here's the facts. All right, that's enough. All right. After being released in 1972, The World is a Ghetto was the best-selling album of 1973, over classics by Stevie Wonder, David Bowie, The Rolling Stones, Elton John, and Neil Young, just to name a few. Wow.
Damn.
What's the best career moment you've ever had? Was it when you were with Damn Wiz? Sorry, I had to say that.
It's too, like, when you talk about from a basketball standpoint, I would say, my tenure with the Wizards, individually winning, going to the All-Star games, and then my time with the Dallas Mavericks winning a championship. I think, like, they go hand in hand just because they had a huge part and a significance on my life, because it was two things that I was told I'd never be able to accomplish. So both of those things.
Who was telling you that?
All the motherfuckers out there that, think that you can't, you can go through adversity and you can't rise from that situation. So when you come up out of it, it's kind of similar to, you see stories like Nate Robinson. He's too short to play. Like why you fuck you think I can't play at a high level just because I'm short? Like, that don't mean that I'm unable to compete at a high level and compete harder. Like, and they do all these tests and these things about speed, quickness, agility, explosiveness, but they never gauge and do an X-ray on people's hearts.
Yeah.
If you got a big heart, you got a huge desire to just impose your will on a situation, and shit happens.
Dude, I can't tell you, like, it's not about, as you can take it from the entertainment standpoint, being a comedian, it's not about how talented you are. It's about how hard you work. There are people that are not talented at all that are making millions of dollars because they got that hustle, they got that drive, and they're not going to let anybody stop them. So I completely understand that. What was that like to finally win that championship with Dallas, though?
Yeah, man, it was
great. That was one of the best series, man. That, like, so fun to watch, especially even as a Wizards fan. You everybody was rooting for you guys.
I think so too. I really do, because they didn't want us to leave Washington 1, and then when they seen some of their favorite Washington Wizards,
you and Haywood, right?
And Deshaun.
Deshaun, dude.
Yeah,
dude, I love Deshaun, dude. Did he have like an Abraham Lincoln tattoo on his neck?
Yeah, man, don't give me that. That's my brother right there.
I love Deshaun, dude.
Crazy.
That motherfucker he balled, dude. Yeah. He honest to God was like, I think he was that one of those final pieces that made your team so good.
He's one of the most authentic personalities and people. I think that he's so mature to the point where if you see Deshaun right now, and I haven't seen him since the Big Three, but before that it was like 2.5, 3 years, your love and your energy pick up exactly where it left off. You know what I'm saying? So he's He's just like one of those dudes, man.
He's a brother, and I dig that. All right. While on tour with Eric Burdon in London on September 18th, 1970, they were joined on stage at Ronnie Scott's club by Jimi Hendrix for 35 minutes at the end of their second set. Jimmy died the next day, making that his last live performance. That is insane.
Damn.
If you could bring back any historical figure to play one-on-one basketball or have a shoot-around with, who would it be?
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley?
Yeah, hands down.
Why do you love Bob so much?
love-
Besides everything, that
Yeah.
he's just the best.
Man, he embodied everything. You know what I mean? So I would love to, from a music icon to a revolutionary when you're talking about real issues and, bringing it to light through music, through his power of using his platform. Bob is on that short list when you talk about just people that really had a global impact.
Yeah.
And how you view them. And I think he's on that short list when you talk about the Michael Jacksons, the Elvis.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He's
an
right
icon.
there. Yeah, he's an icon for
He
real.
changed the world for the better.
Like true icon. Like it's some icons that, self-proclaimed icons,
Sure.
but he's an icon.
No, I get it. All right. How bad would you whoop his ass in basketball?
Oh, yeah, I go at him so hard just because, you know what I mean? I'll be like, yo, Bob, you ready for this action? Like, you probably need Ziggy or one of them with you. It's about to go down.
Just in his face.
I shot the shit.
Yeah. You thought Trenchtown was tough.
Yeah.
See this jumper in your motherfucking face. All
No
right.
woman no cry that.
All right. In the mid-'90s, when the band decided to sever ties with their managers, they found out the name War was trademarked behind their backs by their producer and manager. Those motherfuckers. Lonnie Jordan kept the name War and hired all new players, and the rest of the group started the Lowrider Band. It's a weird question, but what's the most fucked over you've ever been? Or if not, what have you seen?
I've seen a lot of people get jacked up. Look at Cadillac Records and what happened in that situation. And you also look at some of the players that, came into association misrepresentation. And what I mean by that, it was an agency out there charging people to pay their bills, overtaxing on contracts, double dipping in all different facets. And it still happens. I also see a lot of fucked up stuff when you're talking about the NCAA.
Oh, yeah.
For a nonprofit organization to be so profitable where they make, over the upwards of $2 billion in a 2-week span with March Madness. And you have kids that eating oodles and noodles and not getting paid off their likeness. But people always pivot and say, well, they get a free education. I think the education isn't worth that.
Do you think it's going to change? Like you see this stuff starting to happen right now with like California just passed the law saying that players can now start profiting.
In the words of Tupac, man, we came a long way, but we still got so far to go.
Yeah,
we do. I think that it's a process, it's a journey. We fractured the foundation, we put a crack in it, but people have to still understand their value, understand that these universities are just really the ultimate benefactors of every situation.
Yeah, for sure, dude. All right, I think this is the last fact. All right. In 1983, harmonica player Lee Oscar successfully started selling his own brand of harmonicas that are all still very popular. Now, you've had a very successful relationship with Mark Cuban, another entrepreneur with his name on a lot of things. What was the best advice he ever gave you?
Oh, man. I remember I recall us sitting down and having a conversation with Mark Cuban, and Jeremiah posed the question of, what's your relationship with money and how has it changed your relationship with people? And it was deep, and it was almost parallel to what Master P said during his interview, where he said, I never done a deal while I was desperate because it clouds my judgment. And Mark Cuban was just like, people judgment get clouded when they see your success, pretty much. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
your value and things that you're true to still remain the same. It's just how people view you now because of what they identify you as. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's a billionaire. Like, I can't just like kick the shit with him like we doing right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like it's different how people conversate with you and how they treat you going forward is crazy, because they're always thinking the backdrop is the billionaire or the millionaire, or whatever the case may be. The money is the backdrop. So I don't know, man. That taught me a lot, because my relationship with my family, extended and close, like, it teaches you a lot just on how to deal, and from their perspective too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Completely, dude. This was great. I can't thank you enough. Before we wrap this up, final thoughts on the record.
I thought it was a great record. I really did, and I'm bumping it as soon as I hit this hit the highway. I'm headed back on the 101 back into the valley, so I'm gonna be rocking it, because I learn something new every day, and that's a vibe that I need. You know what I mean? So it's definitely on my playlist. It's definitely in the rotation. So y'all should definitely check it out.
Please, Caron, thank you so much, buddy. This was fantastic, man.
Come on, baby. Wiz Kids for life.
For life. Whiz Kids, Caron Butler, ladies and gentlemen. You can find Caron on Twitter at Real Tough Juice, spelled TUFF. And find him on Instagram at Caron Butler. Check out his podcast, the Tough Juice Podcast, wherever you get your pods. Also, guys, catch him on TNT calling games for the Lakers. He's the man with a plan. We're going to smoke a stick together, and I'm so happy that I am now friends with the one and only Caron Butler. Dude, life is fucking great. I'll be posting Caron's Spotify mixtape for all things 500. Like his mixtape or any of our guest mixtapes, go to our website, the500podcast.com. Email us at 500podcast@gmail.com, and follow me on social media at Josh Adam Myers. Subscribe on Spotify. Do it right now. Pause this. Subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you're listening on Apple, give us a review, guys. Rate and review. Now, we just listened to War from 1972. For new music this week, our music director, the one and only Maddie Pinfield, selected Con Brio. Con Brio are a collective from the San Francisco Bay Area that have been touring the world and have an incredible live following. A multiracial band who love war and Sly Stone, have played Coachella, Outside Lands. They are a band you must see live, but you can find all their music, including their new single Sundown, on Spotify. Check out the link on our website, the500podcast.com. And if you're in a band and you were directly influenced by one of these albums or artists and you want your music featured on the 500 website, send your song to 500podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you put the album and the artist that influenced you in the subject line. Next week is Cheap Trick Week with their 1977 album In Color. So y'all got some homework to do. Listen to the album on Spotify. Stay fleecy.